The next guest has been described as a modern hero who fights for the marginalized in society. He's been lauded, in fact, for advocating for the poor through the movement Abahlali baseMjondolo, which he co-founded 15 years ago when he himself lived in a shack. His efforts have now earned him international recognition as he becomes the winner of this year's Per Anga Award from the Swedish government. Take a look.
And today I have the great honor and pleasure to announce that the Per Anga Prize of 2021 is awarded to Sbu Zikode.
Oh man, and what a moment it was. The prize there being awarded for human rights and democracy. Sbu Zikode is the man of the moment. Joins us now via our video link from Durban. Sbu, great to chat to you. Thanks so much for making time. I have to start by saying congratulations. Take us back to that moment. Your feelings, your thoughts when your name was called out.
A very good morning to you and to your listeners. Thank you for having me. Well, it is a moment of great excitement indeed. However, I must say that I'm also at the same time deeply humbled and honored for such, a prize that the Swedish government and the people of Sweden, of course, have awarded to me and to Abahlali baseMjondolo. I am at the same time reminded of a lot of emotions of the comrades, friends, leaders of Abahlali who have fallen during the struggle for land, housing and dignity. We've lost 18 activists, but at the same time that comes back to me to say it's been a hard road, it's been a long road that has brought us where we are today.
It certainly takes a village to ensure that everyone has a home, doesn't it? And that's been the journey for you in the past decade.
Yes, 15 years has not been easy for us. Many of us have deep scars on our body. The price for land, decent housing, respect and dignity has been paid in blood. And then, of course, I myself have had to live under shadow of death, and I had to leave my family. I have had to leave the country. I have had to live in safe homes because suddenly I was not safe.
For those who have missed it, I mean, Abahlali baseMjondolo has been in the headlines at several stages, even of our democracy. But, perhaps the work that is being done hasn't been clear to many people who are now trying to place our discussion. Tell us a bit more about this organization and what it is about your story that led to you being part of it and doing the work that you do.
Well, Abahlali is basically the shack dwellers movement, which was founded in 2005 out of anger, hunger, and frustration. The movement is really trying to secure land and housing for people who are landless in this country, people who are homeless, and our focus is really on housing. It's on land, decent housing and dignity. For too long, the poor black people of South Africa who have not earned respect of the authorities have been looked down upon. They've been taken for granted, and they've been treated as if they are beneath the law. They are treated as the people who do not count in our society. So there was a need for the shack dwellers to stand up and say, this is who we are, this is where we are, this is what we want. And we are driven by the love that we have for our country, South Africa, but the love for humanity. So the vision, obviously, of Abahlali is to really to build an equal and just society based on respect and human dignity. This is what we want to see. But also a mission is to improve the living conditions of the shack dwellers and the marginalized in South Africa. The movement has grown up nationally. We've got more than 85,000 members around the country. We are proud to say the courage and the consistency of Abahlali has finally led to the prize that we are celebrating today. So, courage has met courage.
Indeed. You know, there's a saying I'm reminded of, that a prophet is often not celebrated in the land where he's from. And that's probably a bad paraphrasing. But the spirit essentially speaking to the idea that here we are acknowledging an award, praise that you're receiving from beyond our borders, when in fact a lot of the work that you're doing is in South Africa. I mean, what reflections come up for you on that score?
I think it is important and fair to say this award is not just for me or for Abahlali, it's for the entire working class who are struggling to survive in these difficult moments of our economic collapse, but also at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this prize says to us and to Abahlali, our struggle is just and legitimate, and there's a lot that people from around the country and the world can learn from the courage of Abahlali baseMjondolo. Pe'enga was a brave man, and he was a selfless man. And today we are saying courage meets courage, and principle meets principle. This is what we have to be celebrating and give hope, because many of the people in South Africa are beginning to lose hope. And we are saying, if Abahlali baseMjondolo can win such a prize, then it re-energizes, it reinforces the commitment that we all ought to have to defend our hard-won constitutional democracy.
Yeah, I mean, recognition is important. There's no two ways about it. It's taken 15 years to get us here, but of course we're nowhere near the end. The big challenges for Abahlali baseMjondolo, as we reflect, like you mentioned, around the fallout of COVID-19, what sticks out for you?
Yes, well, we continue to work hard, we continue to organize, we continue to educate our communities around the questions of democracy. I mean really democracy, not the democracy that we see now that saves the interest of the few, while the majority of the people in this country live in deep poverty. And we are saying to share with us the entire working class who are marginalized and who do not find themselves fitting into this democracy, there is a hope and there's a light in the tunnel, and there's so much that can be learned from the courage of Abahlali. And we are saying people should come together because we're a democratic country indeed. Our power and our hope lies in our unity in solidarity.
Yeah, and as we reflect on this honor or praise from the Swedish government, how would you rate how the South African government has responded to your activism? You know, we have witnessed a lot of instances where there's been clashes with people who contend that all they want is a home in various places, including the Western Cape. That in mind, I mean, how do you gaze upon the ways through which leaders here at home have responded to what you do?
Well, it is a shame, and I think a lot of people within the government are very embarrassed that they could not see value in the work that we do, that the Swedish government and people around the world recognize our work. And I think the current government must be feeling pressure and shameful that they wouldn't really take us seriously. And I must say that the abuse of human rights is at its highest peak in South Africa. You know, having to lose 18 activists within Abahlali with impunity, and those crimes have not been investigated. People have not been prosecuted for this. As we see almost every day, we see with students, people who have to fight for their rights are facing serious repression, including death threats, torture, even in police custody. We've witnessed that. So we are saying the level of the abuse of human rights is really disappointing, and it's at its highest peak.
Yeah.
People are facing serious repression, whether you go in Cape Town, in the city of Ekurhuleni, in Port Elizabeth, and elsewhere in the country. We think the government is too harsh on the poor. I think the government is really waging serious war on the poor, and that must come to an end.
Tell us a bit more about those 18 lives you make reference to now for the second time. What were the circumstances leading to those lives being lost?
Well, most of these deaths, people who have been implicated are the Metro Police, the South African police officers, the land invasion units and your private security guards in the city of eThekwini, the so-called land invasion units, the Red Ants in the city of Johannesburg, the so-called law enforcement in the city of Cape Town, but also the Izingati, the hitmen that are often hired by politicians, because suddenly our cities have now been occupied by political gangsterism. There's a lot of politicians who have become gangsters. So out of the 18 activists who have been murdered in Abahlali, at least 2 received justice. And those 2, one of them, it was the police officer that was sentenced to 10 years for killing a 17-year-old Ngobile Nzuza during the protest, and unprovoked and unarmed, from the back. But also, Tuli Lendlovu, one of our chairperson in Gwandengezi, was shot to death by 2 councillors working for the city of eThekwini, who are now serving life imprisonment in Kokstad prison. So you can see that those who are implicated in this matter, these are people who are supposed to be the custodians of our democracy, and it's quite disappointing.
Sure, it really is a concerning state of affairs, and one can only hope that this kind of international recognition will continue bolstering the courage that you speak about for you to continue doing the noble work that you're doing. Sbu Zikode, once again, congratulations to you for being the recipient of the 2021 Per Anga Award for the work you do for our democracy and for humanitarian efforts. That's an award bestowed upon Sbu by the Swedish government. Once again, congratulations to you, and thanks for sharing your story with us.